Welcome, everybody, to PARAMERICAN RADIO. As always, I am your host, Chad Calek, with the one and only Mr. Holstein. I completely took a break off the, coming up with neat intros for your name. It's hard to think about every time to come up with something new.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can just wear that joke out. So I think today we'll just say Justin Holstein's here, hanging out with me. And the one and only, as I said before, the man of all hours, Steve. Tinder Zilberman is in the house. How you doing, Stevie?
Pretty well.
Good. Everybody looks awake right now. That's good. Well, I think it's one of the rare times where everybody's well rested for this, which is exciting because we have a really cool, I think it's a really cool podcast to talk about. There was some a really interesting event went on last night.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
For those listening, I'll give you a little backstory. I am an admitted fan of The Fighter and the Kid, which is Bryan Callen and Brendan Schaub's podcast. I give those guys all the credit in the world. I believe they were the first person or the first team to kind of do The Fighter and then the comedian together on a podcast. And now, like...
What do you mean there's a lot of fighter and comedians?
Oh, God. Everybody followed their format. There's like 2 or 3 former champions now that have comics with them as their sidekick. Like, everybody followed that format. And... and they're all doing well, but those guys are firmly on top of the mountain. I mean, The Fighter and the Kid is the number 1 most downloaded show across the board on all of iTunes. We're talking, they're like beating like ABC, CBS, like news shows.
Isn't that
stuff.
funny, man? That's always like a standard that generally when something works, you have a ton of people that come out and copy it afterwards.
Yeah.
Without the realization that what made it work, it was its own original thing, right?
What made it work is this: lightning in a bottle, 2 personalities that gel and make a hilarious show. That's it. It doesn't matter what their occupation is. So anyways, I'm not going to sit here and keep blowing your show up, Callen. You don't need my help. But look, I'm a fan of the show. So I was in one of those rare Hollywood moments where everything actually works. I decided one night I wanted to be on the show, and I said, I wonder if I just emailed them at their direct email on their website, if this would actually go to them. And I was thinking to myself, in today's world, just knowing the way businesses are much smaller now, right? And people figure out how to do things very cost effectively with very few people. And I was thinking, I bet it will. I bet this will probably go to them, or at least 1 degree of separation from them. And I bet that a lot of people don't send the email in because they think, oh, they'll never receive it. So I'm like, I'm going to try this. So I sent an email and gave them kind of my pitch as to why I would be a good guest. And I sent the email at 11 o'clock at night. By 8 a.m. the following morning, they had, Brendan himself had reached out to me and had me booked. And I was like, man, that doesn't happen in Hollywood a lot, where there's like a number 1 show, you send an email saying I want to be on it, and bang, you're on it, So I went on the show, and Callen does not believe. He is not a believer in ghosts, and that was his whole thing the whole time. But he did this thing, and again, I spoke to him about it last night, that a lot of people do. They have a predetermined, there's actually a term for it, a psychological term, and I forget what it is, but it basically says you associate a value to a way to be, and you take the stance that you're that thing because you think there's a greater value to it. So like right when I walk in, Brian's like, I'm the guy in the room that's the skeptic, like really establishing hard,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, if you're, the pursuit, there's an old lyric, if I claim to be a wise man, it clearly means that I don't know, right? Carry on my wayward son. Anybody that's in pursuit of wisdom should be open to, like, show me, prove it to me. You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting because I've later heard Brian discuss God, and he often goes off on these long, very intelligent diatribes, and I don't say it in a negative way, about God and religion and the pluses, the benefits of it.
Is he really religious, or?
No, I wouldn't say he's really religious, but he certainly believes in a God. And he's made that statement several times. So I remember thinking on the show, this is something we could really debate, but their show it's a comedy show. You know what I mean? And a lot of the stuff we were talking about, especially in regard to American Ghost Hunter, is already dark enough. And I'm like, I do not want to be the guest on the comedy show that just brings up the darkest shit imaginable. You know what I mean? And people just turn the dial. So I didn't really say much, to him about it. I didn't try to take him on or anything like that. It wasn't about that. Their show's a comedy show. And, I even showed them, Justin, the Cerno face footage in between.
Yeah, I watched. I remember that.
Yeah, and listen, Bryan's stance is going to be what it is because he's already predetermined that I am the non-believer in the room. I'm the skeptic in the room. He's placed a value on that. So when you pre-place a value on that, you have to hang on to it.
What did he say about the footage?
Oh, he was like, he was like, that could be anything. I'm
what?
like, yeah, I know. I'm like, it could be. What does that mean? It could be anything.
I haven't heard that one before.
Well, you've also seen, how far we went to prove that,
Sure.
And he was like, so you're going to tell me that's a ghost? And I go, do you think it's a human? He's like, I don't know. And he's like, but that's what a ghost looks like. And I was like, well, what does a ghost look like?
Well, to me, that's what made that footage interesting is that a lot of times if people are showing, look here, or it's an orb, or it could be many different things. But that was clearly humanoid type figure
right.
That's unmistakable. There's no, you know what I mean? It was not foggy. It was very crisp and clear. That's what made it so weird.
Well, I mean, look, I understood his response right away because that's what, again, and I don't even think it was something that he realized he did, but when you preset and place a value on being something, you're going to hang on to that. Rather than say, oh, wow, okay, well, walk me through this. Really tell me, how do you know nobody was there? How can you prove that wasn't a person? You know what I mean? How can you prove, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, that goes along with your political beliefs. Like that one article we went over.
Right.
It's stuck in your...
Right. People, right. That's a great example of what I'm talking about. Right. When you predetermine I'm a Republican, these are my set of values. You've placed a value on it, and now for someone to try to change that, it's almost at the fabric of who you are. So in the past, when I've met people like that, I learned a long time ago, don't try to change. It doesn't change my life if someone else believes something. I truly mean it when I say, I don't give a fuck. I don't, if someone does or doesn't believe it. For those that are open, right, to possibility, Sir No Face is there. It says if you want to be skeptical, but be open to see why we were skeptical and why we became believers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, look, I did the show, and, it's like whenever you do shows like that, you have people that love what you do, and I couldn't thank them enough for having me on. I was the only paranormal person they've ever had on. And tons of their fans gravitated towards us.
Yeah.
I mean, my Twitter fucking blew up. I mean, we're talking a couple thousand people in a day at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what just kind of showed you the power and the reach that they have.
Oh, big time.
We were down in San Diego at our event, and I was just going to the bar. Random person I'm sitting next to having a conversation, and he asked me what I'm doing in town. I mentioned, he stops and goes, "Wait a minute, do you know that guy that was on The Fighter and the Kid? That whatever." Listen to the whole thing. Huge fan. His whole group came over and had listened to it. And
I've been stopped literally on the street. Well, it was once at a grocery store, twice at a gas station by Fighter and the Kid fans who had watched the video thing and were like, "Dude, you're that guy? Oh my god!" So, and look, they were awesome to me. Like when it was over, they did one of their live shows. Which, man, if you're listening out there, you have to go see their live show. Every bit worth the ticket price and more.
What's it like? I mean, what?
I've never Justin, I'm serious. I have never laughed so fucking hard in my life. The live show I saw, there's multiple versions of it, but it starts out with, Bryan has really kind of taken Brendan under his wing in this kind of world of Hollywood, especially in being a comic. And Brendan is, now fully venturing into the world as a stand-up comedian. And so at that time, I think Brendan had about 15 minutes of material. And that's, I guess, I don't know much about it, but from listening to them, I guess it starts out where you literally get 5 minutes worked out, you know what I mean? And then if you have the connection, like he has, you're an opener, right? Just like bands, right? You get 20 minutes, 15 minutes of music, you can be our opener, right? And then you start with that 5 minutes, and once you think that works, you add a minute, and you add 3 minutes. You know what I mean? And at that time, I think he was up around 15 minutes. So their show started with Brendan's, pre-rehearsed set stand-up, And when that was over, he was like, let me bring to the stage. And Brendan, pays great homage to Bryan. Obviously there's a ton of respect there, and he brings him to the stage and gives him this awesome kind of introduction, and the crowd goes crazy. And Bryan hits the stage, and you can tell that he has a few things that are rehearsed and in his bag. But then this is what's crazy: their show goes into full ad lib. And it is the funniest shit imaginable. They were showing like I don't believe I can say the show right now because I know he got it and I know he filmed it. But Brendan is also trying to test his hand at acting. And there's a huge show that Brendan got the gig, and people will find out here very soon. And it's a huge show, one of the biggest ones out there. But basically, Bryan had from his cell phone rehearsal videos of him saying this one line, and it was the hilarious line. He basically would say something 3 times in a row, and it was like 14, 15 different versions of Brendan doing it, and Bryan holding it. When you're laughing your ass off, but you're trying to contain it as he does it, so it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier, like every time. So that's what I loved about the show. The ad lib was like, let me take you all into our real life. You know what I mean? Our real friendship, our everyday things that we do. And they're just hilarious, dude. They are hilarious. And they were great to me that night. They pointed me out in the crowd, and their fans were great to me. When I left, I was signing autographs there. It was really cool.
Have you ever thought about that comedy, stand-up comedy? Personally,
I've had many people come to me after our shows and tell me I should do it.
Yeah.
And I've never personally thought about it. I don't know. I don't know why. I've never. It seems terrifying to me. What's great about their live show is, of course, they have the podcast, so they're pre-filling it with fans. You know what I mean? It's like these people are. Right? It's just like filling the room with our fans. They're gonna like whatever we do. You know what I mean? Because they're fans.
Yeah.
They respect it. So anyways, to get back to this situation, so, I just stayed in touch afterwards, and, the one thing I could say about Bryan that I really mean this, and this isn't like, ass kissing, this is the truth. Bryan's very successful. He's got 3 shows coming out, and his own series coming out. It's like a spinoff of the Goldbergs. He's been in a ton of movies. Obviously, he's got the podcast going. I've told you this before. Whenever I've met really successful people in the business, whether it be Spielberg or Kurt, or the thing that they all have in common is they are almost completely unaware of their own success. Like, they
Humbleness.
just, so fucking humble. Like, Bryan, when the show is over, dude, he spent like almost 40 minutes with me talking about our podcast. Because I wanted to launch this, and I just want to know how they got started, kind of what they did, what worked, what didn't. He had no reason, you know what I mean, to sit on the phone with me and talk about it.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, no problem, of course. And I was like, wow. Whenever you send him a text, phone call, anything, he always gets back to you. Like, that's just rare in this town. I've met so many successful people that are just fucking dicks. And it's whenever you see the people that, are making it on an existential level, they almost all have that in common, is that humbleness. Steve, you met Bryan for the first time last night.
Yeah.
He was treating you like he had known you forever.
Yeah, first thing, man, you want a beer?
Yeah, super, super cool guy.
Yeah. Steve was telling me that he got offered a beer and he turned it down because he thought, Chad might get mad at me if I say yes.
That's fucking right. Yeah. Well, now we're working.
Might.
So anyways, time goes on, and I start hearing on my Twitter, hey, Bryan's house is haunted. And he talked about bringing you into his house to ghost it. I thought it was a joke. I was like, fuck, what? He doesn't even believe in ghosts. What are you talking about? So, I listened to the Fight of the Kid. I just hadn't got to that episode yet. And so I just shot him a text and just said, if this is like fodder for the show, you know what I mean? And, then whatever. But if it's real, you want me to come, sure, I'll come over, I'll check it out. in which, he just got back to me and said, I mean, there are some things that I'm not saying I think it's haunted, but there are some weird things that have happened that I can't explain. And my wife does believe it's haunted, or at least, veers towards that. And, and he was starting saying some weird things were happening with his kids, which, to be honest, I mean, that alone was enough for me to go, well, let me go take a look at this, So
it's more so his wife then that believes
it's him too. No, it's not just her. No, definitely not. I mean, because the biggest tale, and we filmed this investigation last night, and I want to be fair to him and not, give away too much of what happened. But he's going to have the footage, and I'm going to have the footage. We're both going to release stuff from it. But no, it's the biggest claim, which he has already talked about, so we could talk about it, is in his bedroom. There's this, it's about this big. It's about, for those not listening to or not watching the video podcast, it's about 19 inches tall. That's it. And they're these thick crystals, and it's like this little lamp, but they're thick. And you got to push them hard to make them go cling, cling, and clang against each other. And on 2 different occasions, Bryan, one time he was across the room and nobody was in the bedroom, and this thing went off. And when you see the video, you'll see, right? See, it was thick. Like, I mean, the wind wouldn't do it. Like a little, it would take a monster-ass breeze.
Right. Well, he said he thought his dog bumped into it or something.
Right. And when he turned around, nothing was there. Nobody's in the room, nothing. And then it happened again, like right as he was going to sleep. It happened again. And these were his claims. Now his wife had her own series of claims. His child had their own series of claims. And, so it just, we walked him through the process and did the ghost hunt, and some really weird things happened, which I'll share with everybody on a future episode, because, again, I want to give Bryan the opportunity to talk about it first. But what I can say is it reminded me why, ghost hunting is important, because and more than anything else, it causes people to think of possibility in different ways and kind of put their guard down and say maybe there's something I don't know. Because there were unexplained things that happened, and there were weird stories, and it's kind of like when I look at him and say, well, if ghosts aren't real, and you're telling me that, then what am I here for? You know what I mean? And explain this to me then, And I think, like a lot of people, I think what he struggles with is, and it's understandable, the terminology, ghost. You know what I mean? Like, right. When you say, because we talked about this before, what is a ghost? If you hear footsteps down the hallway, is that a ghost? Yeah. If you hear a voice upstairs, is that a ghost? If your keys disappear and they shouldn't, is that a ghost?
Well, the way you just phrased it as, what you like about it, the ghost hunting, is it opens up that question of what you don't know. What is the magic out there? To me, that is always the most important thing to hold on to. When people ask that at shows, do you believe in ghosts? It always goes down that complicated road of what is a ghost, first of all. Right. Then, trying to explain your perspective, and what I love about it is I know for certain that there are many things we don't know. I know that for certain, Well, and we talked a little bit last night. I kind of said to him right away when we sat down, I talked a little bit about that kind of predetermined value on a state of mind. And I said to him, it's interesting that, you'll denounce ghosts, but you will tell people that when it comes to the possibility of a God, to err on the side of existence. And he was like, well, yeah, in my life, I think there's a lot of, things that are kind of connective tissue, things that, lead me to believe that there could be a God. And I understand what he's saying. I mean, but I've always, and you guys can give me your thoughts on this, I've always felt like believing in a God was a way bigger leap than believing that the energy of our body doesn't just stop existing once we die, and that there are multiple dimensions, or there could be. Like, to me, like, the ghost thing, the only thing that's confusing about it is the terminology, I think. Right. But the possibility that our energy goes on after we die,
to me, like, that's just not a huge leap. But the possibility that there's a God that knows everything and created this crazy fucking thing called the universe.
Well, do those two conflict with each other? Because if your energy stays here after you die, then wouldn't that mean that you don't go to heaven or hell? So would that mean that there wouldn't be a God?
I don't know that it conflicts with anything. What I think is, if you're saying you don't believe in ghosts, what I think that you're saying is that when you die, you die. Like, whatever is you, holistically does not exist.
To me, it's just about defining, first of all, what a ghost is, because...
A human being without the body.
Now, see...
whatever you are, without your body, still existing within this plane.
I would say I have not ruled that out, and I have reason to believe at times. One of them, the big one, was when we were in college and we were... All those questions were being answered, that we were playing Ouija, which is always why I want to play Ouija, because it was the one true thing where we had a long dialogue, like hours, with something. I don't know. Or multiple things, possibly, who knows. But, again, I never rule out the fact that I know, just because, even though science, we all, like, put our knocks on science, possibly, but science is a pursuit of trying to figure out what the truth is.
Sure.
So whether it be that we live in a multidimensional universe where just other, versions of ourselves are crossing over because of energy, whether I don't know what it could potentially be, but again, I always come back to, I do believe there's stuff we don't know, and again, it's obvious. It just every year something new comes out that somebody found, some scientist just discovered, and everybody starts running that direction. So
there's 7 planets. You know what I mean? It's a big one.
Yeah.
Anyways, what do you think, Steve? Is it?
Well, I think my opinion is really funny, because I think that a God is easier to believe in than a ghost. But me personally, I don't believe in the textbook definition of God. But I can't even say I 100% believe in quote unquote ghosts. I know there's something going on that we don't understand, but I definitely could see why it's easier to believe in something that created us, because then there would be no explanation
you view
for
yourself
what.
as evidence.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Right, you view yourself as evidence.
But then as a ghost, that's like, well, we died, like this may happen, that may happen.
Yeah.
It's just...
To me, personally, it's all connected. I think you have to believe in it all or believe in none of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true.
I think you have to, if you believe in a God, then you got to believe in the possibility of an earthbound spirit, Maybe
not, though. I mean, we could have all been created by accident or whatever, and our energy still stays after we die. That's possible.
Possible, and that could be what we're calling a ghost.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. I think that in order to consider the reality of a God, I think you have to consider the reality of a ghost. And I think a God is harder to. I mean, I don't know. When I look at the sky at night, guys, I'm baffled. I mean, I'm serious. My whole life's been that way. I just sit there and go, fuck, that's amazing. I mean, now wait a minute. And then we start listening to what the science. Now we're moving right now. Our galaxy right now is moving at unbelievable speeds. And our planet is moving, and it's like, well, wait, hold on. We're spinning at 600 or almost 1,000 miles an hour right now. I mean, it is so fucking weird to try to wrap your head around any of that. And then you stop and you go, is any of that true? How could they determine how fast our galaxy is moving? I mean, it's just, and a lot of times you would go, oh, well, and Joe Rogan talked about this before too, is that people often say, oh, well, dude, they figured it out. Well, who's they?
Yeah, I know.
People always say that, and you
they.
just accept it as a fact. And you're like, oh, well, they said it. Well, who the fuck is they? Who is this incredibly smart group of dudes called
scientists,
they? Right, called they.
Right, because when you
sit
get
around
older,
and go, the world is doing that. Dude, they figured it out.
Right, because when you get older, you realize we are considered specialists in our field, right? They're considered specialists in their field. But they're just as fallible. I mean, they're just as apt to making mistakes or
well, that's why everything in
misinterpreting.
science is all theory.
Especially when you talk about space, when you realize that dark matter is just a blanket term for we don't know what it is, and it makes up 99% of space. You know what I mean?
Justin's a very hard disbeliever of
dark matter.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: dark matter came about because they had no definition for.
I'm going to give you a pre-warning. You got 2 minutes to explain this, because this is one that'll fuck. I already see it, dude.
No, this is one that'll long.
2 minutes. Okay. In 2 minutes. I'll fucking
2 minutes is more than enough. Okay. So basically, dark matter was established as something that's there because they realize after measuring, right, gravitational pulls and everything else, that there was something in the neighborhood of 97% more matter there than what we can measure. They don't know what it is. They don't know why that's the case. So they just started to find this as dark matter because they thought, well, maybe there's just a type of matter we can't see or experience, right? This was also considered a possibility there could be in this multidimensional universe that there's these other dimensions of existence around us, right, that have a gravitational influx in interaction with our universe, right? That could be a consideration of what it is. But they have... Just keep in mind, there is actually nothing that they've seen or studied or whatever that actually is dark matter. It's just a theory, a concept of something that's not there, right? Now, if you come to a mathematical equation down the road that explains why gravity interacts that way, it would completely...
Dude, that one sentence just sums up how fucked up space theory is, even quantum theory, when you're like, it's just an example of something that's not there. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, space is so fucked up. Look, I just think that wasn't that bad, Justin. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I just think it's all incredibly hard to wrap your mind around. But I just don't think you can do one without the other. I don't think they're connected, meaning that a god has to be connected to a ghost. But I'm saying if you're going to consider that a god would exist based upon human beings being evidence, or the things that we see and emotions we feel, things like that, how can you definitively shut off that our energy could not go?
Right.
Especially when, look, there's a fundamental principle of science that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's just transferred.
Right.
So, we are energy. That is what we are. We're protruding. Right now, our bodies have electrical energy in them. Our bodies have...
electromagnetism?
Yeah, electromagnetism, right.
We're electrical, Yeah,
we're electrical, basically. So it's got to go somewhere. And the thing that, without giving too much away about it, like I said, we will go into everything we did with Callen. But I could see it on his face, and I was glad that he did it, because he really was open to the possibility.
Yeah.
And as weird things start happening, it gets to the point where he's almost leading the charge.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Well, ghost hunts, even beyond, searching for ghosts, they're fun. And I think that's what he realized, that he's like, hey, man, I'm having a good time. Yeah. I'm actually investigating something. We're joking around. We're having fun.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to. And they even said, they're like, please, next, if you ever have a ghost hunt, please take us. Yeah.
Or even the possibility of planning one. You know what I mean, for them. So it was super cool for me to see him go from taking that stance the first time I met him, of being like, I am the world's greatest skeptic, you know what I mean, to like the most hardcore skeptic, to the guy that at times like was pointing out things that were like the fence and the lights.
Yeah, right.
And you guys don't know what that is yet. You will. I want him to talk about it first. I want to give him that privilege, but there was this thing that happened that was truly strange. Where it was like, what is going on?
Yeah, Will was talking to us.
Yeah, it was really strange, and Bryan was the one who pointed it out and wouldn't let it go, and he was super excited, and so it was just really cool to see it. And the thing that he would get into those listening, if you've never been ghost hunting, or if you're completely disagreeing ghosts, and remember that 99% of skeptics that say ghosts don't exist, they've never been on a fucking ghost hunt. Ever. So how can you say something isn't real if you've not been there? That would be like me. I was talking to Bryan about this last night too. That'd be like me saying, stand-up comedy? That's easy. Well, how do you know? You've never been on a stage. You've never done it. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same thing with ghost hunting. Like, go to the places we've been. Like, spend the night there. Like, do the work. Then Tell me it's not real. Because, what Bryan experienced last night, there were some interesting things that happened. And I've said this a while ago. I say it in my college lectures, is that once the veil's off, you notice a lot. And it's almost like the biggest oxymoron is that the paranormal is called paranormal, which the literal translation is like activity above the norm. It's not above the norm. It happens all the time, every day, everywhere. People just don't notice it. And with that being said, everybody, we're going to take a commercial break here. But before we do, just so you guys know, the reason we're not going into grand detail right now about the investigation is that this was Bryan's investigation. It's his house. I don't want to beat him to the story. You know what I mean? I want him to have the right to talk about how he feels about it. And then, on the show coming up, we'll have an episode where we devote to this. And on our social media pages, you'll see more and more film footage from that night and what occurred. It was truly an interesting night, an absolutely hilarious night as well. It was a lot of fun. So when we come back after our commercial break, we're going to have Steve combine our paranormal news, our rabbit hole news with current events. And then I'm going to tell you about Patriots Day, the Mark Wahlberg feature about the bombings in Boston during the marathon. Really cool movie. A lot of surprising stuff in there that I knew nothing about until I saw the film, and after doing some research, I was surprised by how much of it was accurate, they say. And there's a lot of conspiracies around that thing, too, so we'll get into that as well. And that's it. We'll be right back with more Paramerican Radio.
Paramerican Radio will be right back after this commercial break with even more dope-ass shit.
In 1984, a Siberian geological group of scientists began drilling a well into the grounds of Russia's Kola Peninsula. After digging nearly 9 miles deep, the drill bit began to spin wildly out of control, as though it had entered a hollow region in the Earth's crust. After retrieving the bit, scientists lowered a temperature gauge and an audio recorder into the bottom of the well. Although the estimated temperature of gases in the ground at 9 miles were thought to be 120 degrees, scientists were shocked that the gauge returned a reading in excess of 2,000 degrees. But nothing could have prepared them for the sounds returned by the audio recorder.
Calek's Stairway to Hell documentary, along with 15 additional Calek documentaries, are all available on DVD right now at ahtelevision.com.
And we are back with more Paramerican Radio. Chad Calek here once again with my Luke DeBow Duke. In this world we call a pod, he is my fellow P. Justin Holstein. Luke, that's Luke Hazard,
Padawan?
right? Yeah, Luke Hazard.
God, the Dukes of Hazzard. We used to think that was a good show, you know?
It was at the time for where TV was at. I mean,
yeah,
we advance over time, obviously.
Yeah.
But having said that, as we always like to do, we pry open the door to the rabbit hole, and we have the millennial voice of a generation, the swipe rider himself, Steve. Take us down the rabbit hole, my friend.
Sure. I'm going to start with something that I'm sure a lot of people forgot about, but which is extremely important, the Flint water crisis. This month, 2 people that were linked to the water crisis were found dead.
Wow.
And it was within days of each other.
When you linked with the water crisis.
Right. So one of the people was the foreman of the water plant.
Wow.
He was found dead by his friend. It doesn't say how he died, but I'm assuming it's from natural causes. And the other person was the lady who first brought the lawsuit about
really?
the water. Yeah, she was shot. And authorities are pushing, saying that this is a coincidence. There's no conspiracy here. Like, the Flint Police Department went out and the chief made a statement about it. And I mean, of course, it looks really fishy, but I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I follow the band King 810. Do you know who they are?
No.
They're this dope ass metal band, like the last straight new metal band that Roadrunner Records signed. Very Korn sounding, but they're from Flint, and all of their songs are about Flint and it being the murder capital.
When you say it's the murder capital, I mean, you mean just per capita, or?
It was I don't know what year it was, but yeah, it was per the population of the city. There was more murder there. They beat Chicago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, they beat Chicago. I mean, it was fucking brutal.
Yeah. This was before the Chirac was coined.
Yes, it was before Chirac was coined, and they were pretty much screaming they have songs where they sing about the water and they talk about it. I mean, about how basically that the belief, there's all kinds of conspiracies there that the government basically, if you want to shut a scenario up, there's different ways you can do it, but one way is just flat out fucking kill people through natural causes.
Right, and the foreman, the guy who was running the plant,
right.
Who maybe he was about to go out and say something, who knows?
Right, who knows? You know what I mean? Right. And these guys, the big reason why they got their following is their fans felt like they're the loudest voice to help us here in Flint. You know what I mean? So this girl, as far as could she have been killed by the powers that be? I'd like to know more about what happened.
Right. Well, so the gist of the story from what authorities are saying is she had a beef with someone, and they killed her over that beef. It was her and one other girl, a 19-year-old, that were killed.
Okay.
And I mean,
beef with someone? You mean a political figure?
No, just a beef with another peer. And they didn't go into details about what the beef was, but I bet you something from social media.
Yeah, I mean,
man.
it's the thing is, I could see it happening either way. The town is dying. I mean, what do people do when they got no money? They can't drink the fucking water without getting sick.
Well, when was the last time?
No help's coming.
When was the last time you even heard about this in the news? There's no resolution yet.
Was it Flint or Detroit that was the water issue? Was it Flint?
Flint.
Yeah.
That must be where, because the point guard for Iowa State, Monte Morris, worked Hy-Vee, and they took in truckloads and truckloads of water. I thought it was Detroit, but it must be Flint.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing
that was
is,
all over the news on that.
I could see it happening both ways. I mean, just imagine that you live in a town, your industry is collapsed. Your water is killing people. Your violence is through the roof. Housing is decimated at best. What do you think is going to happen? People are going to turn fucking violent, and it's a terrible story. It's amazing to me that's whenever I hear these stories about how we're going to up our military budget $2 trillion. I'm like, God damn it. A fraction of that fucking fixes issues and feeds people. You know what I mean? Why? I mean...
You know why, man? Because we're in so much debt, right, with all these other countries. But if we have the biggest military, what are they going to do? Hey, pay us back.
Right.
No.
Ultimately, Justin and I talked about this before in the past, where I said our debt's a joke. Because ain't nobody going to say pay up. Anyways, what else you got, Steve?
This is a much happier topic.
Okay.
So there are these mystery energy flashes that are spotted in distant galaxies. They're called FRBs, fast radio bursts, and the first one was discovered in 2007. It's just this massive. It's a mystery. But now, what a group of scientists from Harvard University are saying is that they believe that they're alien spacecrafts that are causing these things. And check this out. This is crazy. They believe that the bursts are leaked energy from unimaginably powerful transmitters capable of sending giant light sail ships on voyages between stars.
Light sail ships?
Yeah. A sail ship is, a ship that travels large distances.
Okay, gotcha.
So they believe that this is what... Because, I mean, this is billions of, light years away.
This reminds me of a similar story that recently, it was a California group as well, they were basically documenting the sky. And there was this one segment of stars where between 232 stars, I think it was. I think I played this for you. They had recorded, energy going, or radio waves bouncing between these 232 stars that they just documented.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's what this sounds like, you know. Guys, I'm going to throw something out there, and I just thought about this a couple days ago. Just tell me what you think in general. Do you guys not feel this happening, this UFO thing? Like, okay, I'm trying to get too far down the road and be what I criticize the most with Justin and getting too lengthy. But look, our planet is facing an unbeatable, right now, an unbeatable ending. You know, we have massive problems coming up with water right now. We have massive population problems. We have global warming that really could decimate us inside of 50 years. And right about the same time that our planet looks like it's starting to fall apart, you know, suddenly there's all these reports of, wow, there's this planet, there's 7 new planets here, there's CERN over here, you know, trying to open up black holes and shit. Oh wow, now we just found out, you know, that there might be ships that are traveling between. It just seems like there's a massive concerted effort and a bunch of new discoveries that now seem to say it's certainly possible that we could live somewhere else and that aliens are around. Remember, man, a decade ago, NASA was scoffing at the idea. They were laughing, going, too far away from anything. There's no one out there, no possibility of it. Now it's literally like daily discussed, like it's a thing. Obama just signed this thing to colonize Mars. Elon Musk is going to the moon with 2 civilians. Yeah. Like, it just seems like it's information prep. Like getting ready for something massive. There's all these theories going around that supposedly there's going to be a fake alien invasion. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing that's been written about. Wow. And I'll tell you something that totally freaked me out. Someone was, I was watching, I think it might have been Alex Jones, which I typically don't watch because Alex Jones has kind of gone off the rails a little bit. As he's gotten older.
He's been off the rails.
Yeah, you know. But there was
a lot of people are saying he's involved with the CIA too.
Yeah,
right. And
I've heard that too. That he's an operative.
He says stuff like that. He's saying that he's friends with Trump, and he, texts him and stuff.
With Trump, yeah.
You really think they talk to one another?
I think so. I think they did. Prior to the election, from what it sounds like.
Let me show you something really fucking strange. Someone was telling me about how CERN is this fucking the most evil fucking thing, and like it's fundamentally known that the last thing you don't want to do is open up things in space and the space-time continuum when you don't know what you're doing and you're just blasting shit. A lot of people are afraid of what CERN can do, and it's one of those things where this coincidence is so weird. You're like, why would this be there? This guy basically, I was watching, said, you don't got to look too far to know it's evil. It's got 666 written all over it. And he goes, but I'm crazy, right? I'm crazy. And he throws up the graphic of the CERN logo, their official logo. And I'm like, what the fuck? So here's their official logo. 3 6s.
Twisted around each other?
Yeah, so why? Why would that be that? You know what I mean?
Huh.
It's just strange, you know what I mean? It's like, why would that be 666?
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing, because there could be some legitimate reason as to why.
And of course, but it's so strange.
I think
there's
the thing is, when they were talking about building CERN, there was a lot of people that they're panicked because they think they're trying to find the God particle and they're doing something like they're going to. But the thing is, smashing protons at near light speed, I mean, they have to have these devices that they're measuring them with, right? They have to have such high operating devices, and they're doing this in this tube that's cooled with what is it? I think it's liquid CO2.
Yeah.
They can get to almost like 200 degrees below Fahrenheit or whatever, right? So, this isn't like it's a bomb going off or anything, right? It's you could be right by it and you would hear nothing. So it's it's happening at such a subatomic level of what's happening with these proton smashing that I think the mainstream understanding scientists were all thinking, okay, you don't understand what we're doing if you're worried about this.
Sure.
You don't have a full understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Well, but I think too the bigger issue is maybe right now it's not like that, but they keep building it bigger and longer, and they're trying to move faster and this and that, and
they've expanded it beyond.
Well, I don't think they did yet, but I think I remember reading an article. I think it may have been even like a year ago or so that they are going to build onto it.
Well, I mean, obviously, if increasing a circle size, I know they had one underway that they were going to build in Texas. It lost funding, right? So they have one in Chicago, Fermilab.
Right, my friend.
Right,
my
and that's the one I went to, and that's the one I actually witnessed them doing this. They would, every time these protons would hit, it would register, and they would give off all the information, right, of what actually came out of that.
Have you seen the people that are taking photos of the weather above the actual CERN facility?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I did hear about that.
Weird shit is happening in the skies above the CERN facility itself when they conduct tests. I mean, shit like this. There's just tons of them. There's tons of CERN photography that people have taken.
CERN photography.
Yeah, above the CERN facility that's going on when they're conducting these experiments. And there's tons of people out there that are just like, this thing is bad news. That this is not shit we should be doing.
Right.
And I know part of that is there's fear of the unknown, and people pray for that. But we're talking about particle colliding. That's a lot of power associated with that, physical power. You know what I mean?
Right. But just real quick, just to get back to the article, sorry. I wanted to explain why the scientists think that, and basically, is these energy blasts emit so much. So, let's see if you guys get this. So it's a payload weighing 1 million tons, about 20 times the mass of the largest cruise ships on Earth, right? And what the scientists are saying is that's big enough to carry living passengers across interstellar or intergalactic distances. And basically, there's nothing in nature, in the universe, that explains why these events are going on. So the scientists are saying, you know what? Why don't we should stop looking at what we know and start thinking past. Yeah, I listened to an interesting podcast, and this guy, he said such a great quote, which goes off what Einstein says, is imagination is more important than knowledge, because knowledge limits you to what you know, but imagination opens the doors to learn more.
100% always agreed with that, man. Yeah.
Well, at some point, you got to stop avoiding calling it what the solution is, because you don't like what that could mean. It's why, when I was thinking about how am I going to market CERN No Face, I was finding I'm going to fucking call it what it is. It proves ghosts exist. Because tell me if you're going to say it doesn't, then give me something that solves this problem. What is it? If it's not this, and this, at some point, you just got to go, I'm going to call it this until something else proves that.
Right.
And that's why, I get tired of, in so many cases, with these guys, it sounds like they're just going, you know what, guys, you know what solves this? A 100 megaton ship that takes people back and forth. Yeah. So aren't we calling that again? Oh, because we're not supposed to say there's UFOs. Right. Well, fuck that. Well, you know what I mean? That's
to me, the thing that always becomes laughable is that it's like when I always explain the whole thing about when people do believe in ghosts, and I have to go, okay, this is going to be hard, because some of this is, if you already know about some of it, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you don't, you're going to have to do a lot of reading and research before you'll even understand what I'm talking about, right? So it would be like if we're the early 1900s and all we understand is wagon wheels and horses pulling, and somebody's saying, you're telling me they got horses going fast enough to, you know what I mean? The idea that we try to put it in the box of what we currently understand
That's
is
what
hilarious.
I just think in any situation, whatever the most likely thing is, you got to call it that. Whether you believe in it or not, you got to say, based on everything we know now, this is the most likely thing.
Sherlock Holmes.
Right. Prove me wrong, and I'll say something different. But until then, this is what it proves right now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. What else you got?
Current events.
Yeah, give me some current events. Totally.
All right. Yeah, so this current event is from Julian Assange.
Oh, wow, Julian, yeah.
Yeah, he tweeted out that Hillary Clinton is pushing for a Pence takeover of the White House, and he claims 2 intelligence officials are planning on it.
Really?
Yeah, his exact tweet was, Clinton stated privately this month that she's quietly pushing for a Pence takeover. She stated that Pence is predictable, hence defeatable. 2 IC officials close to Pence stated privately this month that they're planning on a Pence takeover. They did not state if Pence agrees to it or not. And Pence followed up on it, and he said that he finds all this dialogue that Julian said to be absurd and offensive. He said, "It is the greatest honor of my life to serve shoulder to shoulder with the 45th President of the United States."
Well, here's the thing. It's a weird thing because obviously if that's the case, he's not going to say it, right?
Sure.
It's not like Pence is going to go, oh, yeah, we're working on this shit. We're going to take him out, you know? So it's almost silly for Assange to put it out there. You know what I mean?
Well, but this comes amid all those CIA documents that came out. So Julian does have access to documents. He always has. He's proven time and time again that he has. So how true is this? I mean, it explains Trump's erratic behavior. 'Cause maybe they knew that they needed a Trump to win, but in order to
But they don't want to stay, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then how do you get, Pence in?
Right.
Get him removed because he's doing the craziest...
You know what's crazy? Should Julian ever leave that Ecuadorian embassy... He's fucked.
I would imagine
it won't take long. Someone will take him out.
I would.
The shit he is doing is beyond. But whether you like him or dislike him, think of what he is doing. I mean, he is basically saying, I am the lightning rod of the dirty fucking deeds of the uber powerful. I'm opening up all their closets. The shit that they hide the most, their most trusted secrets. I'm just fucking putting it out there over and over and over again.
Do you remember what he said? He said if he ever gets killed, then a huge mass of all these crazy documents are going to come out.
It's called that UFO guy has. I think it's called a kill file. So basically he's got damaging dirt beyond repair that would just fucking fuck the world,
Well, I think it was Maxine Waters, one of the senator, that came out and said that literally the sex stuff with Donald Trump was true. I don't know if she got her private briefing.
Right.
I mean, some of the stuff she didn't. Again, this is when you're having senators and stuff saying things like this. That's what really, because that's a rarity when that happens.
Of course. You're going against your own government.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, honestly, the bigger conversation, I always look at the conversation we should be having. The bigger conversation is more so on the idea of, you could say, whether people like or dislike Julian Assange, do you believe or don't believe we should have this information as American citizens of a country, right? How are you supposed to vote on who you want leading, what's going on, if you don't know the actual reality of what's transpiring?
Look, if it's a lie, if it's a straight up lie, and there's the only reason that the lie is taking place...
You're talking about this, what Hillary said.
In general, regardless, any politician, if someone's lying and then Julian Assange leaks the truth, I would say to respond to your question, it would depend on what the lie was about. If you're lying just because you don't want your business to be seen in the light of day, then fuck you. You know what I mean? It's like people should know if you're involved in campaigns and things that are fucking dirty. They should know that. But what's hard is that there are things that need to be secret. There are things that have to be secret.
See, that's the very fine line. It's not like I don't understand it. But it does get into this very fine detail where they say, well, all this is classified. And that I got to call bullshit on. It upsets me all the time where they go, I'm sorry, so you're saying that you will tell us children what we need to know when we need to know it. And although we have proof that you lie over and over to motivate and lead us down certain roads. Now, at some point, there's got to be some transparency here, or else we're stuck in this same thing where it's like, well, there's a lot of stuff you guys can't know about.
Right.
But anyway, we need you to vote between these two people.
Right. And neither of them are going to be honest about what's going on. Right. Well, here's the thing. I think when there's an obvious lie, when you're caught in a lie, you should have to do whatever it takes to right that wrong. You know, for example, Trump has stated over and over again, once, I become president, and, once, there's a couple things he said that once this happens, I'll release my tax returns. Mm. Well, those things have come to pass, the things that he said that need to happen, and he hasn't done it, Honestly, I don't even think he's going to... I think by the time he released it, he'd probably have it so swept up, it would probably...
He's not going to release it.
Right. But he's not going to release it because he doesn't have to. And there's nothing that's going to make him do it. I mean, there's no law. There's been plenty of presidents that haven't done it. You know what I mean? There's no law that's going to force him to do it. And I just think he knows that there are standard, regular practices that occur all the time that are shady as shit that he's involved with. So is a million other people. If you don't think that the Clintons, especially Bill, on the oil side of what he's done, has been involved in shady shit, oh, he has massively. So the reason I think that what's his name, the Australian. Yeah, we're talking about Julian. The reason I think Julian Assange is necessary is pure checks and balances.
Right.
We need that guy that says, no, wait a minute. But what I don't like about what Assange is doing, and I love the balls of this guy, what I don't like is the picking sides. Well, I don't like it because you're now still trying to control the narrative, man. That makes you CNN, Julian.
Right.
And you're saying, no, I'm truth. No, you're CNN because you're trying to make one side win over the other.
Especially, I always look to this. What I value very largely is like Edward Snowden, for instance, can speak in such eloquent, educated terms as to why this is important.
Right.
And to me, that's important because I'm not trying to degrade and say that Julian Assange is an idiot or anything. I just don't see him speaking at that same level. And then you question motivation. That there were a lot of the releasing of these documents that made me really start questioning because you're going, wow, this is awfully similar to the fact that Trump, Russia have positively been benefiting from these news leaks, right? At the strategic times, and. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think there was a big switch that happened when Kennedy was assassinated. If you look back to what Kennedy's speech when he was still alive about, we as a free society do not believe in secret societies.
Right, that exist.
About the importance of a free and open press and all that. It was epic what he said, and I think. That day that happened, we went this other direction as a country. And I think the people that had their own controlled belief as to what should occur have been in control since.
Sure.
Well, I just think I hope Julian in the future starts realizing that no one's your fucking friend. So get it all out there. You know what I mean? Don't just pick one side because if you think Donald Trump's going to somehow have your back in the future, you know what I mean? It's like he's not. It's like just put it all out there while you can.
To me, that's what gets frustrating. It's people look at things like things have to be one way or the other, and then no, they can be both ways. Donald Trump can be an idiot, but the free and open press may not be so free and open.
Right.
Those two things can exist simultaneously. It's not like. Donald Trump is a great man and all this stuff if you believe that, the free press is not being run truthfully, etc. I think there's enough evidence once you've researched this that you do realize that there are a lot of interests and controls of the people and the corporations behind America and what their interests are, These are such complicated things. This is where it gets complicated to bring these topics up because then you question, should I even bring that up? Because it would take 50 hours of podcasts to go down that rabbit hole.
Just keep it topical, you know what I mean? Ultimately, I think what we're saying is that, because it would take 50 hours, the reason it would is because there's a multiple interests of, and you'd have to go through all those people and talk about all their interests and what lines up. What's ultimately needed is if you're going to be a whistleblower, be it to all sides. Because if you don't, then you become the same as a Fox News or CNN. You're now a character assassin instead of a whistleblower. And I think Snowden is a true whistleblower. I think Julian started out as a whistleblower and I think became a character assassin. It's a little bit different. So, anyways, give us one more, and then I will take it into movie reviews.
Sure. So there are these new earbuds made by Waverly Labs that this is straight out of Star Trek.
Okay.
That translates when you talk into it. So, for example, you go to another country, you don't speak the language, you have the earbud in, and if the other person needs to have an earbud in order to talk back and forth. But if another person doesn't have it, then they just speak into the app on the phone, and it translates. And but this is the craziest thing. So they're not out yet. You can get them for pre-order for $130. They're going to retail for $250, but if you pre-order them now for $130.
Is this Audible Translate?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So the person speaks into it, and it tells you in English like what they're saying.
The part of it is just from what I'm following a lot of these technologies. This is basically Google Translate combined with like what Dragon Natural Speaking was, and what all these things have been.
But the fact that they've got it to work. I mean, I have 7.5 and I have the new iPhone, and I only have the first version watch. And I'm not wearing it right now, but. And the second version they say is out now. I say it's way better. Mind-blowing how good Siri has gotten.
Right.
I mean, I could have a fucking song playing, the window down, air blowing in, and fucking hit and tell Siri exactly what to do, and nail like 95% of the time. Nailed.
And this is what you're saying now, but what they like have information leaked about like the next iPhone, and they went back to the drawing board and
retooled it.
Right,
it's going to be killer.
Right,
yeah.
Like how much better could she be? Apparently, she's going to have like a bit of like AI type. She's going to know your habits more.
Dude, I'll rebuy that phone in 2 seconds. Siri's awesome. When I'm driving down the street now that I have the thing, I can just be like, click Siri, text Justin. What would you want to say? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, dude, talk to you later. Give me back up. And it comes back up perfect, man. They get so loud in the car. I'm like, that's amazing. Would you like to send? Yep, send it. Bling. It's like, that's amazing. I think that's really, I was thinking about it with the phone. The only places that it can go from here is AI. Right. And then I think we're going to start seeing things like lens attachments and stuff like that, and speaker attachments or more powerful speakers. That's really the place you can go.
Sony just unveiled a contact lens that records video, and the contact lens has an AI technology that knows when you're blinking or when you're blinking to start recording. Like, come on. That's just straight out of science fiction, man.
Yeah. Well, assisted. There was a YouTube video on how to create your own. It's a contact lens, and he's putting a copper, like real thin wire in the. It was crazy, dude. I'm like going. He was giving basically a rough demo of what the assisted reality that they're working on, right?
Yeah.
And they've invested. Who's the guy who owned the basketball team who was in Shark Tank and.
Oh, Mark Cuban.
Cuban has invested hugely into this. In the multiple billions into assisted reality technology, which they think is going to be. I can see that being very practical and useful.
VR is just the first step. AR is what's next. Right. AR is when you take your reality and it changes it for you instead of VR, which gives you the new reality.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, listen, very good, Steve. We are actually, I think we're going to do a second commercial break here because I want to come back and do the movie review, and we have fan questions. And we also have something else that we want to promote, which is keep your eyes open, everybody, because we are in the process of booking the Sir No Face Lives World Tour. We don't have dates or videos or anything yet, but it is being booked right now. So I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see the Sir No Face trailer if they haven't. That is coming up next, and we will be right back after this commercial break.
PARAMERICAN Radio will be right back after this commercial break with even more dope-ass shit.
In a distant land where magic is as real as the rainbow. In a place where nature exceeds imagination. A paranormal investigative team, led by a man named Craig Powell, has captured something on film. Something that will change the world. I have seen Sir No Face, and soon you will too.
Calek, director of Sir No Face. So the next few weeks we'll be announcing 2 brand new screening events for Sir No Face. To find out what cities we'll be coming to, visit aghtelevision.com and check out our live events and touring page. Thanks so much for your support, and we'll see you soon.
And we are back with PARAMERICAN Radio. It is movie review time. You know, guys, I'm a big indie documentary watcher. I can't stand big budget Hollywood movies just because they're just always so fucking short on story, you know. But I did just watch a big budget picture, Patriots Day with Mark Wahlberg, which is a film on the bombing of the Boston Marathon. Now, it goes without saying that it's, you know, a propaganda film for the police and, you know, the feds and everything.
Patriots Day.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they're showing their version of it, the version they want us to see, obviously. But if I remove that and I just say, let's just watch it for what it is, just a movie. Let's just watch it as a movie. Really fucking good. I mean, I didn't realize, I don't know how much of what they showed is true. I read, like literally when I was done watching, I read a bunch of articles on it, that a lot of the stuff in it actually is pretty true to what occurred or what they tell you they want you to believe is true. But what's really interesting about it, and it was interesting to me when it happened in the film, and it was interesting to me when it happened in real life, is that whether the city knew it or not, they effectively declared martial law.
Yeah, I know.
And people chose to stay in their homes. They just fell in line. And they did it because they believed it was for a proper cause. They wanted to get these guys, and they wanted. They understood. I think for the most part, they understood how, or it was sold to. It was sold to them. The film shows this. You know how it could be effective if they helped them. Essentially, if nobody's on the streets and shit starts happening, then you're gonna track them down pretty easy. I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't know how deeply rooted and again, if this is true, how deeply rooted the hatred that they have, for America was. I mean, that's a weird statement because they like blew it up. What I mean is they had direct ties back to, these Middle Eastern, hate groups that.
It was European, I thought.
Well, no, the one guy had been through like an actual like training course. Like they went and lived there. I think
this is what the movie
Europe.
Portrayed, right?
Yeah, it's the movie portrayed. Yeah.
It was in Europe, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't in Europe. It was in. They say.
I thought it was fairly close to Russia.
Right.
It was.
You guys have heard of this thing. They
right.
Yeah, for like 2 years.
But the funny part is the FBI had been involved with them too.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, the FBI had known them. Had especially the one guy, on file. They knew who he was. And when this all went down, it was crazy. They should have had them pretty quickly after it went down. They should have had them. And if according to the film, man, they hit the cops with some fucking firepower. I mean, bombs, fucking big weapons, big guns, and they got away. And they had them cornered at one point, and they literally blasted their way out of there. How he got captured in the end was pretty interesting, because I remember this kind of watching in the news as it happened as well, is they had, for all intents and purposes, kind of lost track of dude. And a phone call came in where a guy said, "There's someone living down on my boat." And when the police showed up, they saw blood on the boat leading down. And because of this kind of martial law thing, they're going, well, wait a minute, there's probably a good chance that this is one of those dudes. Why would a guy be sneaking into your boat? You know what I mean? That's bleeding everywhere. That's because they had just been through this shootout, basically. And but it was fascinating to see, and because you know there's way more in the real world, the techniques and the things that they could track now, the cameras, the multiple ways where they can track people now. It was just like, fuck, you could not get away in today's world. I mean, like, that's why when I hear this shit about we couldn't find bin Laden, whatever. I mean, the tracking technology that we have is mind-blowing. And it's full-blown satellite. They're on top of you, you know.
Did they go into any of the bomb-sniffing dogs that morning, that being reported and being seen and experienced?
They showed it. Yeah, they showed it. Yeah, they showed bomb-sniffing dogs. They showed it. They showed it all very much like there was two renegade guys that had some history, had done all this. You know, essentially acted on their own with, basically patronage for their religious beliefs. You know what I mean? But as a movie, I would tell anybody to go see it. First, just on an enjoyable experience. It's just directed really well. The intensity is really fucking well. The sound design of it is totally unique. Really, really cool sound design. When the bombs go off, it's crazy. I mean, it's like just the way it's shot is so unique. It is so unique. They do a lot of the Michael Mann stuff where they actually drop out sound and you're seeing super slow-mo with hardly any sound of like what's going on. And they portray the battle between, and I know this stuff happens because Lee used to tell me about it. My Uncle Lee is in law enforcement. The battle between the feds and the local police. The local police have lost people they know. You know what I mean? And that's like they're seeing. There's this one scene where this 8-year-old that was killed. And this is the part that I read that was true. Like his half-blown body is laying on the concrete, and so the parents are being quarantined because the feds are basically saying don't fucking touch him because his body has blast powder, make it like he's evidence.
Evidence, yeah.
Right, and the locals are just like. Really? So go tell their fucking parents that their kid has got to stay on the ground while you do, you know what I mean? And you kind of see there's a lot of those real life things that you don't always think about that are in there.
Yeah.
And the battle between the feds and how, like, it's well represented how they didn't necessarily want to call it terrorism till they knew, because I think Kevin Bacon even says it, basically, once it's terrorism, we no longer have a problem on this block. We have a worldwide problem. You know what I mean? Once you label it that, then it's Wolf Blitzer, it's fucking, you know what I mean? So you can see, think about that too. Like on the media side, like labels are so fucking important, It's why when Benghazi went down, you know what I mean? It's like they don't want to call it certain things because it could be something it's not if it becomes that. From a conspiracy standpoint, watching it, I'm sure it'd pull fucking hair out. You know what I mean? It's like, it'd be a good one to just bitch and just go off on, But Mark Wahlberg's getting really, really good. And especially that movie's built for him. I mean, he's from Dorchester, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's from Boston, so it's a perfect natural fit, especially as he's getting older. He looks a little more weathered, but yeah, I mean, look... check it out. If you're out there, check it out. I wouldn't steer you wrong. It's a great 2 hours of semi-mindless entertainment. We all kind of know what went down, but it's cool to see, I guess their interpretation of it. But I also, of course you warn people to take it with a grain of salt too. It's a fucking movie, so of course shit's way stretched. But it's a patriotic, it's called Patriots Day, right? Right. So of course at the end of it you're gonna be like,
I'm gonna enlist.
Right. Everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to feel good. And it had almost like a 90% reviewing on Rotten Tomatoes. All right, let's get into fan questions here. I took 3. These were pretty straightforward, but I try to take ones that are a little bit different than what we usually have. But this one's pretty simple. Melanie from Madison, Wisconsin wants to know, what is each of our favorite movie? And she didn't say paranormal, so I think she means just in general. Melody, mine's pretty easy. You would probably be surprised to know that it's Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson. 3.5 hour drama about life. It's if you haven't seen it, you definitely got to be in the mind state for it. I think it's the most perfectly acted, well-directed film I've ever seen. It just hit a lot of personal... I could go on all day talking about why, but it just hit a lot of personal things with me that struck a chord. And, the cast in there is the best collective cast that I've ever seen in a single movie. So mine is Magnolia. Justin, what is your favorite movie? And that's a hard question to answer, but if you could limit it down to one... What could you live with saying it's your favorite movie?
I always really liked the whole. It was an inspirational part about Braveheart, but I honestly think Magnolia to me. I mean, I have the poster. I have that was such. You know what it is? You know how sometimes you have such a clear vision in your head of what you want to go after,
right?
And depending on how much time, effort, and money you want to spend and how relentless you are, you can get pretty close to that vision of what you had in your head.
Right.
What to me, when you watch the behind the scenes of Magnolia,
right,
you see how relentlessly psychotic he was.
Militant, right, about getting it done. Yeah.
And when you are like that, and other actors who share that same passion, like Tom Cruise or whoever, get it, they see it. Right. They're like, dude, I am in 100%. Right. I am backing you to the grave on this, and I'm going to give it everything I've got because I see this is no bullshit to you. This is your life. You're putting everything you've got into doing this, And
that clearly happened in that film.
Yeah,
big time. Stevie, what's your favorite movie?
It's right behind you, actually. Clockwork Orange, I think, is my favorite. Kubrick's my favorite director of all time. But, I love all movies. I think maybe a modern favorite would be, I really liked Interstellar. It's thoughtful, it's well done, nice soundtrack, but I would say Clockwork Orange.
That would be like my slide in the number 2, like a Clockwork. I loved it as well. I mean, it's hard to...
Oh, man. It's
you watch that film, it feels like a color. Like, it's just its own thing. You know what I mean? It's,
Totally.
It's fucking crazy. Yes, Kubrick is the fucking man. Okay, Mary from Gold Coast, Australia asked if we're ever going to come back to Gold Coast. I recently saw a bunch of people asking about Gold Coast specifically, which I don't understand why I would be getting a bunch of questions about Gold Coast. So if there is a reason and I'm missing something, put it in the comments below. But when we come back to Australia this next time, which we will be back, we will absolutely be visiting the Gold Coast. It is my favorite city of all of the Australian cities. Last time I was there, true to form, I had an amazing time. Went out, enjoyed the beach with Laura. I think Sharon got tattooed. That was a good day, man. That was a good day.
I'm trying to remember the venue. Was that the restaurant thing we were at? I'm trying to think what the
No, that was Townsville. Townsville was the outdoor, screening area / restaurant bar.
Yeah, but there was another thing.
Gold Coast was...
We were out there was a band playing.
Gold Coast was... it was... At those old towns they put together with all the different city houses from different cities that make up a new city. And then afterwards we went from little building to little building on the ghost hunt. The girl, she couldn't figure the screen out. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
She couldn't figure the screen out. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but we went to the beach, the whole beach area and all that stuff. And we stayed a couple blocks from the beach. That was the place with the pool.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, we'll definitely be back to Gold Coast for sure. I guess, that's the answer to that. Yeah, definitely. The last one is Victor from Eugene, Oregon asks, and it's the last question of the day, last question of the show. Victor from Eugene, Oregon asks, is there any paranormal case you would never return to? Victor, I only have one that I would never return to, and it is Persia, Iowa. It is the American Ghost Hunter case just because I'm done. I'm over it. You know what I mean? There's no reason, literally, for the rest of my life to ever return to that town, to that house, to that story, to that part of my life. it is, encapsulated in the time capsule that is American Ghost Hunter. So I have no desire to go there. And the last time I was truly scared at a ghost hunt was during that one. And nothing happened. It was just an overwhelming feeling. I'll never forget Justin looking at me going, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" And it was just this feeling you could feel. It felt like, well, to me, it felt like at any moment somebody was going to get shit canned by something. I mean, it was really heavy. And it made me very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. But that's the only one. The rest of them, I went there for big things to happen. If big things happened, then that would make me want to go back. But yeah, that's about it. Stevie, did you see in the last podcast I gave you a little love on your videos?
Yeah.
I put a little Charms Velcome up there. Put a little
KB,
KB Playboy. Love it. And you're off here, I understand, to film a couple music videos. You got one coming to Miami, right?
I got 2 in Chicago and 1 in Miami. And I just filmed one in Chicago a couple weeks back. I'll send it to you. It's pretty cool.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, the artist was just trying to portray the violence there, so I added news clips, and it's a dark vibe, but it's cool.
I'd love to check it out. We'll also put that link out there for people to check it out as well. That's very cool. And Justin just arrived in town, so we got a bunch of filming that we're doing this week. But for now, it's time to wrap it up. Say goodnight. I'm going to go home and get some dinner and relax a little bit before we are back at it again tomorrow. Justin and Steve, say goodbye.
We will see you soon.
Ciao.
Peace, everybody. Thanks for listening to PARAMERICAN Radio.